1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on episode 24. We are 2 weeks into the new year and already out of ideas. It's not necessarily true, but it's how I feel whenever I'm trying to put these topics together in the morning. Luckily, as
I'm bursting with ideas today, mate.
Yeah, I know. You're very quickly becoming the brains of this podcast.
What? That's not true.
Oh, man. So, topics. I do want my very first one that I want to get into right off the bat before I forget about it, and we go into something that's a more lengthy discussion. We talked about New Year's resolutions a couple podcasts back, I want to point out that I have, as of the beginning of this week, I have established mine and have been following it all week.
Oh yeah? What is it?
So, following our kind of tenets, our thoughts on what the best way to construct one was, I tried to make one that was both flexible and doable, but also would give me some kind of a tangible benefit. So, my resolution is at least 4 days a week, before I have breakfast in the morning, I need to do something productive, right? So that could be chores, housework, it could be doing a workout.
That's why we're starting so late, because of your New Year's resolution.
That is actually why because not only did I have to do my normal stuff in the morning, but so basically, and I have a notebook that I have over there that I had used for a previous New Year's resolution, and so just every day I'm logging down what it is. So like one day this week, I took out the trash and recycling, did a bunch of push-ups, and did the dishes, right? But all has to be before I start work too, because I'm not counting work as something productive, which I find kind of funny. But or like another day this week, I edited the podcast that's going up today and set it to upload. That again, something productive. One day this week, I hopped on the elliptical, did a mile on that, and then vacuumed the house. Just little, basically, and it can be small or like it could just be something like this morning. It was just push-ups, curls, and squats, and then I was done. Just like one set of each.
Yeah.
So, and I also don't log anything that happens after I eat breakfast. So that's okay. Kind of the chopping off point.
It sounds more like, instead of I can't remember the phrase you used. It sounds more like you're doing things that you're not obliged to do, as opposed to not putting in effort.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are things that I could put off, and but they're all things that will have a benefit somehow to my day if I don't put them off.
Yeah, that's fine. It was a real struggle first. So when we recorded the New Year's resolution one, it was 5 days before the New Year.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out after the podcast. I did a mile-long run, and I got home very lightheaded, very and that super kind of set my mind back. So I did exactly what I said you shouldn't do in the podcast, in that I went too far too soon. So I toned it back. Yesterday, today as well, I've been doing kilometer runs, just so that I get my breathing back into proper circulation, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I've done it before. I've been going running, and I'll do it a day, well, every other day or every day. And the biggest hurdle at the beginning, like the first week or two, is just getting the breathing through, so that I'm breathing properly and it doesn't hurt when I breathe while I'm running. What comes after that is like the what I consider the real workout, which is the leg. Your legs are exhausted by the time you get back, and that's the stage I want to get back to. And it's getting there again slowly. I know today I was a lot faster than I was yesterday. And keeping it to 1 kilometer. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just try and get a little bit faster with that kilometer each time, as opposed to further. And then when I get a decent speed, I guess, I'll start yeah, increasing
when the
the
1
distance.
kilometer becomes child's play, then you can think about pushing it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just taking it steady. Gonna make my way up. I'm still gonna stick with the want to be running a mile at some point every day.
That's
I just need to work towards it.
Yeah, that's good that with the from the like the psychological perspective too. If doing just the going through the motions and doing it. Like when I remember when I used to do like CrossFit, right? And they'd have you do like these really intense lifts. They would have you practice with basically no weight at all for a while. And the idea was just going through the motions and training your body to like, follow through with the proper form and technique. And I think it's the same thing from a mental perspective. Even though it's not like something super demanding, you're training your mind that, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to go run. And then you're getting the breathing right, and then you can worry about actually training like really hard if you want to.
Yeah. Yep, it's just a little time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I just wanted to do that because I know we talked about forming New Year's resolutions, but as of last week's podcast, I hadn't thought of mine yet.
Also, I've been keeping up with the Twitter as well. Just about. It's kind of hard because, like, obviously, we don't yet have anyone following the Twitter. So every time I go on it, I'm like, I'm just doing this for no reason at all. But I am doing it for a good reason. I'm doing it so that, one day it will grow. We will grow as a channel, and it'll be there, and I'll have practiced for it, and I'll be ready. So yeah, that's going well.
There we go. And you,
was there anything else
all you
that?
people listening here, if any of you use Twitter, follow us, damn it. No, but all that being said, I say that, but I made a Twitter account and maybe used it for 6 months back in 2016 or 2015, and it was the least productive time of my life. Like,
yeah. Well, don't go to the rest of Twitter. Just go on, just for us, and then never use Twitter.
Oh my god.
There was actually a I was watching a.
Sorry, just before you get to that. Speaking of, on the subject of Twitter, because one of the few things that we follow on, like I made when I made the podcast Twitter account, I had it follow a few people, and one of the people I had it follow was Elon Musk. He's now the richest man on Earth.
Oh, really?
The Tesla stock jumped up by a decent margin, and he just passed the founder of Amazon.
Oh, nice. There was a Christmas quiz I was listening to, well, obviously around Christmas, and that question came out who was the richest man on Earth, so I guess that's not the correct answer anymore. I thought it was going to be like a Saudi Arabian prince or something, but no.
Yeah, no, it's Tesla.
Amazon dude.
Their stock jumped up by like $200 a share. Like it was a $200 bump upward, and now he's he's now the richest man on Earth.
Damn. Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah. Did I tell you about the controversy with him recently or not? It's a bit political, so I don't really want to go into it.
I feel like there's always a controversy with him, like because he is the exact, like he's the Tony Stark type, where he's rich and he's inventing all these cool things with he's making all these companies, they're making these innovations, and then he goes on Twitter and shit posts. Like,
yeah, I mean he is a memer, that's for sure.
I mean, is it the one about like pronouns?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of this, and I found that hilarious. But Oh yeah, I always find it hilarious when somebody goes on social media and pisses someone off. Like, that's just entertainment to me. That was what the internet was when I was growing up. Was you went online and tried to piss people off. Like,
I mean, that's why I'm surprised you don't use Twitter more, because people get. People are easily offended on Twitter.
I lie when I said I made my first Twitter account in 2015. I actually made my first one in 2010 at the urging of one of my college friends, and I got it banned within a week.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But it wasn't anything I said. It was the name I chose for the account. I called it like @bag of dicks.
Okay. Original.
So, and like all I did was just write stupid. To be fair, that's what I used Facebook for too. Was none of my like. It's like, tell us how your day's going, and I would just write whatever random thought came to my mind that usually would be completely nonsensical, and most of the time would just annoy people. Um, yeah, I'm not the ideal social media user because they want people like. So I think social media companies imagine people logging in there and interacting with human beings as if they would interact with them in real life, but that's not how the internet works.
No, that's kind of how Discord works, but
Yeah, but Discord in general,
it's
it's
a lot
like
more homely.
right. You can speak on Discord and you can have video calls, and so there's
Yeah.
a closer connection, I think, to people.
Mm. Where Discord is like a small cafeteria where you might be talking to a group of people. Facebook or Twitter or something is like a shopping mall, and you're just standing in the middle, screaming out that you had a nice coffee.
Yeah, I can just imagine that somebody walking out of like a coffee shop and just like, "This coffee's great."
Hashtag ad.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no. But what I was gonna say just now was that I was watching a YouTube video and someone made, well, a small group of people made a YouTube equivalent, right?
Mm.
Where creators will put their videos up, and they will get paid based on the amount of time that people spend viewing their videos. There is a cost to watching things on this platform, and I can't remember if it's $1 or £1 a month.
Mm.
So, and also with that, there is 0 ads as well on any of the videos. So I thought that, I mean, again, I don't know anyone who this is not sponsored or anything. I'm just saying that sounded like quite a nice idea.
Yeah. What do you know what the site was called? Because I know of a few that follow a similar model.
I want to say it was called like Nebula or something.
Okay.
Uh,
Because I've heard of a site called Minds.com, and they follow a similar thing, except it is free to go on the site, and they don't. It's not like monetary interactions, but you get like this fake currency for the site, and then you can use that to tip, and then the creators can use that to highlight their videos and get more people to watch them, and
yeah.
it's just it's an interesting economy to it. I looked into it a few years back, and I think I poked around with the site a little bit, but I didn't end up really using it.
Yeah, it's hard to beat free,
Yeah.
especially when AdBlock works on YouTube. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems like a nicer, better community kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of that's been what's happening with honestly with both. I think YouTube is the one where everyone's at, right? So there's definitely going to be there's quality stuff out there, but you kind of have to dig for it.
Oh yeah, there's so much trash. But every so often you find a real golden nugget, and you're like, damn, I want to watch this creator now.
Yeah, two channels that I just found that I've been following because I'm a massive like history nerd. I discovered a channel like it's mostly an alternate history channel called What If Alt Hist.
Yeah.
Quite good.
The moment you said alternate history, I was like, the words "what if" came into my mind anyway.
Oh yeah, okay, you used to watch it too.
No, I haven't seen it. It's just something you do in general when.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But so like he did a series recently where he was talking. He's doing a series like looking at potential developments in like global politics, geopolitics, like how countries are going to be interacting with each other over the next 10 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big contests coming up is a bunch of countries are cutting off each other's water supply because they need the water for like other reasons, and it's causing a lot of tension. And it's just a very interesting analysis, places that I hadn't even thought about in years. But
are we running out of water?
No. But so an example is Ethiopia is building a dam, or a series of dams for hydroelectric power, but it's at the source of the Nile, and so that's going to cause serious water problems.
A lot of land,
yeah, for Egypt and one other country just south of Egypt. I can't remember what country is south of Egypt. Namibia, maybe?
Not great with geography.
Doesn't matter.
Not in the real world, anyway.
So Ethiopia building this dam, they need the power to help their developing economy, but Egypt is like 90% of the population lives along the Nile, so if the Nile has less water, that's going to cause serious problems for them.
Also just a massive tourism point.
Yeah, that too. And so there's the two, those two countries are kind of mad at each other right now. But that's just one example. So it's not like we're running out of water, it's just that the sources of some key water supplies are located in different countries than the ones that use them.
Mm.
So
it's like playing, what is it, that city building simulator game, and putting like the poop outtake pipes at the top of the river, and then the little cities down the road just get poop water.
I think I know what game you're talking about.
I think it's literally called City Building Simulator, isn't it?
Well, City Skylines?
No, City Skylines, that's the one. Yeah.
But so that's one channel. Another one that I ran into recently is Economics Explained, and it's exactly what it sounds like, but it's this Australian dude.
That makes it far better.
It is hilarious hearing economics explained by a dude with a bogan accent. Like it just.
I think
the thing you have to know about the econ. I can't do that. I can't do that accent.
No, you can't.
I can't do. I tried and I fucked it up.
The only Australian channel I think I follow or have followed in the past, and I occasionally keep coming back to it, is the I think it's called How Ridiculous or something, where they basically just got this massive tower out in the middle of a deserty forest, and they just drop shit off of it onto other things. I've
seen those videos. You actually probably sent me some before.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's very. You don't need a brain really to watch it, but it's very satisfying. Sometimes just watching, like, I don't know, Thor's hammer at 200 feet colliding with a glass table at the bottom or something. Like, I don't know. It's just very satisfying to watch. And yeah, their accents are on point.
Oh my god. Yeah, so like, but that's kind of my point. Is there are gems out there, but it takes you a bit to find them on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, like, going onto a site like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't think it's ever going to beat YouTube because A, it's free, and B, it's what everybody knows. That being said, that's what they said about Facebook, and now, I mean, Facebook's predominantly used by middle-aged people who are angry about
everything.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just full of hate, really.
Yeah. I mean,
it always kind of was.
I technically still have a Facebook account, but I haven't logged into it since January of last year.
Right. Yeah, it's all about pictures and things now these days, and Facebook is not as cohesive.
For years, that's all I used Facebook for. Was I used it as a place to store photos. But now I have plenty of extra hard drive space, so why bother?
Yeah, I've used the only times I used Facebook in like the last year was to get in touch with people who I haven't seen in like 3 years.
Yeah, I realized that we're 20 minutes into the first segment, and all we've really done, we talked about New Year's resolutions for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then ragged on social media for the next 15.
Mean, I'm just saying that bingo card's going to be looking pretty full already.
Oh my god.
Oh dear. Yeah, sorry, do we have a second topic?
We still have the first topic.
Wait, what was the first topic?
I haven't even brought it up yet. I mentioned the New Year's resolution thing.
I thought that was the first topic.
Well, I had that jotted down as just like, as a follow-up, let's talk about follow up on the New Year's resolution thing. But the first topic was the one you had from last week that we didn't actually get a chance to talk about. And this is going to be, I feel like this is much less interesting than just shitting on social media. But I kind of...
But we do it every week, so we do got to give them a slight break.
I like the idea of it, though. So the topic that Blue suggested last week that we didn't get to was, so in a lot of video games you'll have like key items, like tools, weapons, things that are a little bit fanciful or more realistic, and we wanted to just like think of some that would like either be ridiculous if they existed in real life or could actually work if they were in real life.
Yep, it's that time again. Put your nerd goggles on. It's time for video games.
Oh my god, you even said it like you had adenoids. Oh my god. Okay, so the one that I used as an example when you brought this up last week that I feel like I'm just going to start with because it's very generic. The Legend of Zelda video games.
Ooh. Okay.
They had a bunch of like these kind of key items. So like, use Ocarina of Time as an example. It was a game on the N64 and now the 3DS.
I was gonna say, I would say that all the items from Legend of Zelda, because Legend of Zelda is kind of like set in the past, as it were. I think that most of the items in there are feasibly real.
But here, this is why I wanted to first, like, literally one of the best examples of something that would probably not work in real life. So a couple of them, you're right. There's a sword, there's a shield, there's a boomerang, there's bombs. Yep. Those, yeah, all conceivable in real life. But there's also a weapon called the hook shot and a long shot. It's literally like if you picture something about like half the size of a bowling ball, right? That's the middle of it. It's got a handle on the one end and like a point, like a harpoon on the other end. And it fires out, and there's a chain on it. It hooks onto something, and then, like a grappling hook, pulls you up to wherever it hooked into.
I thought that was just a grappling hook gun, though, isn't it?
Well, a grappling hook is technically just a hook on the end of a rope that you throw, and then you climb up. But this is... that's what my point is. This, in the setting of this game, is a ridiculous thing. Because, A, where is all that chain being stored? Because there's not nearly enough room inside of that thing for the chain.
Yeah.
And B, that would rip his arm off.
Would it?
I mean, the amount of force you see him pull up with in the game, I
see what you mean. Sorry, I thought you meant firing it, not getting pulled up by it.
Yeah, no, getting pulled up by it.
I mean, to be fair, though, there'd have to be a lot of force behind it to fire the projectile to start with.
Well,
like
and
any distance.
Yeah, that's the other question. It's like, yeah, what is firing it out, and what is...
It's like an RPG, just like... just singes his horse that's standing behind him.
Even like grappling hook guns that we have in real life, they're a one-shot thing. You load the grapple hook in, you aim it, you fire, a charge goes off inside the gun, or the delivery device, whatever it is, and then it fires the hook up, and then it hooks on, and then you have to actually climb up the rope. It doesn't automatically wind back up.
Yeah. I mean, it's slightly future check in that the there's no re-chambering, and I mean, if you think about it like the your favorite character in Apex, right? He puts down a base, right, and then fires off the thing, and then he can scale it that way, right?
Yeah.
Would that be feasible? 'Cause, I mean, that's kind of similar. The only difference is that it's got like it's attached to something where you're standing.
I mean, it's a futuristic thing, but yeah, so you just, like, you're basically taking a base, pounding it into the ground, and that's now an anchor point. And then, like you said, he's using a kind of explosive charge to fire the other base off at, like, a long distance. It's no different than, like, a harpoon gun in that regard.
And then he can travel even up, can't he, with the things, like, you grab on something and it's, like, just a small motor in it that just whirs you along it, right?
Yeah. It's a zip line.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not inconceivable.
Right. But it's a different thing. Like that character in that game, if you look at him, he's got like he's a robot, he's got a giant winch on his back, like
No, but I mean, it's not inconceivable in this day and like.
oh, in this day and age, yeah, it's not inconceivable.
No.
You could probably create something like that today. And I guarantee you some kind of spec ops unit in some country's military or several countries' military probably have something exactly like that.
Maybe. I thought when we were coming up with gadgets, I thought you were going to go straight in the deep end with Batman gadgets because Batman's got a lot of fancy gadgets.
But going with Batman gadgets almost feels like going with James Bond gadgets. They're always a little bit off the deep end. What were you thinking of when you were thinking of Batman?
The most significantly powerful gadget that he has, the Batarang.
What? Isn't it just like a shuriken shaped like a bat?
No, they can do all sorts of stuff. I'm pretty sure in some of the games it has sonar emitting shit. It can come back.
He has the electrocution one.
People?
Yeah.
Snark.
What?
It can kill people? No, wait, it's Batman. It can't.
Yeah,
kill
Batman
people.
can't kill people.
If he sharpened those wings, it could kill people.
Well, that's the thing. I remember watching the Batman movies, like the Dark Knight trilogy when they came out. Like, I remember seeing when he first got the suit, I'm like, he's gonna kill somebody by accident at some point. Like, Batman, like, he doesn't. His whole character, except for the new Batman, the new Ben Affleck Batman, kills people all the time. But, like, a true iteration of Batman, like, his whole shtick was he doesn't kill. He just seriously cripples people and leaves them with concussions and contusions all over their body.
Like, they can live with their mistakes.
Yeah. But then, like, when he's first looking at the suit in that first movie, like, Morgan Freeman's there talking to him about the suit, and, like, these blades pop out and fire across the room. I'm like, he's gonna pull the wrong trigger, hit the wrong button on his suit, and he's gonna kill somebody.
That's almost like in a video game where you're like, oh, I accidentally, like, jumped out of a window instead of crouching next to it. Except as Batman, it actually kills someone.
Oh my god!
Sorry, misclick.
I've done that. I did that in Cyberpunk so many times. I was trying to open something up and I hit the wrong button and threw a grenade at it. Like,
oh god, yeah. Grenades it's always grenades, isn't it?
It really is.
And it bounces off a wall next to a door, and everyone's just like, "Oh shit!"
Well, so one thing I tried to do, like, there was a van that I had to destroy in the game, right?
Yeah.
And I tossed a grenade. Like, the back doors to the van were open, so I tried to toss a grenade into the van. But there's an invisible wall where the doors normally are, so the grenade ricocheted off of nothing and came flying back into my face.
Oh dear.
Oh my god.
They I was playing Rainbow the other day and the same thing happened. I was like crouching. Me and another operative had just entered the building. There was a small hole in a wall, and I was like, I reckon I can get a grenade through there. Pulled the pin out, cooked it, and then just as I was throwing it, the person I came in with steps in front of me.
The amount of time
I'd already let go.
You've done that when I'm trying to deploy the goo traps as Legion.
Oh, but no, that's different. All right, that's you just not being aware of your surroundings. That's not my fault.
There's a wind-up time for it, so he takes the thing off and then he throws it, and I can't cancel it.
Also,
somebody just
you don't take any damage from that. I take damage from that. You just lose 5 points, and one kill is worth 100 points.
That damages my morale.
You could also pick that goo up again and replace it. I can't replace my broken skull when I've dropped a grenade at the feet of myself and an ally.
I take spiritual damage from that.
Spiritual damage, yeah, right. Haven't you hit me with Sledge's hammer before?
I have, yes.
Where's my spiritual revenge for that?
I lost a lot more points.
Yeah, as you should. You crippled me with a hammer.
Also, just getting back to the topic of gadgets, because Rainbow Six is a perfect example. There's tons of gadgets in that game. I love that my favorite character to play, Sledge, he has one gadget, and it's a hammer.
It's not even a gadget. You can't call that a gadget.
That's a gadget. Isn't Sledge Scottish? He's got simple tastes. His gadget is just like a heavy rock on a stick.
Maybe if the hammer had like Bluetooth or something, but it doesn't, so no.
But if it had Bluetooth, oh my god, just put speakers in the side of the hammer so he could play like bagpipes as he's smashing down walls.
And you could call it the boombox.
I want this so bad. I want this in real life, actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the sledgehammer. Mind you, the audio equipment in there would get destroyed the moment you hit a wall.
So I've got to tell this. This is quite an old story. Back in my just after college, or yeah, just after college, I went to an anime convention with some old friends, and I can't remember. Like we're just basically going around and hanging out. I was a lot nerdier back in those days, believe it or not. But the
impossible.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to, like, I always liked the idea of like people dressing up and doing like cosplay for these things, but I also liked to like piss people off and make fun of them. So what I did was I came up with a costume idea. So you know the anime Ghost in the Shell?
Yep.
Okay.
I've not seen it, but I know of it.
Yeah, so for just quick synopsis for the people that don't know, Ghost in the Shell is a cyberpunk, like, future sci-fi anime where, you know, full body cybernetics are possible and people can, like, basically, they have, like, you know, jacks in their necks and they can plug into computers and interact directly computer to brain, that sort of stuff. It's called Ghost in the Shell because the shell is the cybernetic body, the ghost is, you know, the human mind, human spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good anime. They made a movie and then they made a series that was also quite good called Standalone Complex. Doesn't matter.
Wasn't the movie by the guy that did Resident Evil or something?
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the live-action movie. I'm talking about the original animated movie.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm aware, but I was just...
Yeah, but I think you're right. I'll have to check that after this.
Can't remember his name. Very famous guy.
Anyway, very serious anime, very serious movie, very, like, people think animation, they think it's for a younger audience. This is a very, like, when the movie came out in the US, I think it was an R-rated animated movie, which was unheard of at the time. But so anyway, very serious, very psychological, very thought-provoking. I decided to make the following costume. I got one of those turtle shell sandboxes, took the shell part off, threw a sheet over my entire body, cut out like eye holes in it, and then filled the turtle shell with cement and tied ropes on it so I could wear it around my back, and then put speakers in it. And I called the costume...
So you put cement in it?
Yeah, I put cement in it. It wasn't... Well, I couldn't think of another way to hold the ropes on. And I wanted to actually be a hard... the thing weighed like 40 pounds. Like, my back hurt like hell after walking around with that thing on.
Yeah, no shit!
But the fun thing was there was a dance during the convention, and I was able to fall back on the shell and spin around. That was a lot of fun.
Oh my god.
But then I couldn't get back up because it was full of cement.
Like a turtle. Very, very appropriate.
But the reason I bring it up, and you know, the whole joke was I'm the ghost in the shell. Like it was a stupid pun, but it got exactly what I wanted. I got laughs out of some people, and I got annoyance out of others. But what I did was, in the cement, I embedded 2 Bluetooth speakers and had those hooked up to my phone. So my shell was playing music as I was walking around. And that's what, you know, talking about the Bluetooth hammer, that's what I was thinking of. Gotcha. Long, elaborate story just to get to that point. But if I had just said... right at the beginning, this one time I had a concrete-filled turtle shell that could play the music. That would have made no sense. I needed context.
When has anything we've said made sense?
Just look back at this entire first segment.
Yeah, just look at the segments we're going to be discussing today.
Oh, God. All right. You know what? You're right, though. That is a good spot to end segment 1. Yeah. So this is going to be end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you will hear us momentarily for segment 2. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment now. And we did have movie night in the middle of the day yesterday.
We did. I mean, they don't often happen at night anymore.
Honestly, because for me at least, it happens usually midday because that would be like evening your time.
And I've been trying to get my sleep schedule back to normal, so I haven't been up that late.
Yeah. So movie afternoon, movie lunch break in my case.
Yeah.
But yes, so we watched a movie that I had been kind of wanting to show people for a long time. It's a bit older. When I did look this up, it came out in 2003, although I first saw it in college, which would have been like 2008, 2009.
It did give original Transformers movie vibes.
It had a very 80s, 1990s anime kind of feel to it. Even though it was made in the early 2000s. But the movie's called Interstellar 5555, which I later found out that those subtitles actually mean something. Like the fives actually stand for something. They actually use the 5 as S's, so it's like oh god, I've forgotten it now.
Oh. So I look it up while you waffle.
Yeah, please look it up while I just go. I'll describe the plot. So the interesting thing about this movie is that there's absolutely no spoken dialogue, but it's not like a silent movie or like that. It's essentially they took Daft Punk, the kind of I don't know what to call that band or group, whatever they are.
Story of Secret Star System.
Story of Secret Star System. That's what it is. So there's Daft Punk, the group. Their second album, Discovery. The entire movie is set to that album, and the album just plays through. And they have essentially made an anime movie. Some Japanese animation studio, Toei, I think, did the movie, and they just basically created this whole like sci-fi. It's a very simplistic story because, I mean, when I say simplistic, I mean at the very beginning you can kind of guess how most of the plot points are going to happen. Some bit of adversity is going to happen to the main people. They're going to go through a series of hardships, and then they're going to break free or be rescued, and then happily ever after, right?
Actually, there were a couple of twists that I didn't see coming.
Oh, okay. I'm curious to hear about that when we get into that. But the basic premise of the plot is you've got a group of blue people on an alien planet playing music, right? They're playing in a band as the first song plays. Another ship lands, and these people get out, gas the crowd, and kidnap the band. And crowd wakes up. And
sleep gas, that is. Yeah,
sleep gas. Sleep gas. I realized I should emphasize they did wake back up. They get the band gets kidnapped and taken back to Earth, where they are disguised to look like a normal human rock band from the 80s, or 90s, I guess maybe. And they get the guy who kidnapped them, who it's kind of a somewhat mystery who he is, but he has a spaceship. They get him to international fame and acclaim, and they win an award. But then one guy who was from their home area of space followed the guy through his little escapade back to Earth, crash lands, and spends his time eventually breaking some of them free. At which point, they rescue the one person that isn't free yet, and then confront the guy who kidnapped them, and eventually at the end, defeat him and make their way back home. I'm not spoiling too much because I do recommend this movie. It's quite good, especially because it manages to tell a lot of story and get a lot of nuance across to the audience without any sort of dialogue and without much in the way of sound effects.
I think, and don't take this as a bad way thing, but it's the perfect film to show a class of art students.
I agree with that.
It's all about lateral lateral thinking. The way
lateral thinking. Yeah, that's the word you're looking for.
The okay, right. I could poke holes in it all day, but I appreciate that you kind of got to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
There's, first of all, I thought it was going to be a lot shorter. I thought the moment they all got out of their headbox things, where they're
the mind control bit.
Mind control, that's the word. I thought that was going to be like they were then going to just beat up the bad guy and go home. But no, it was like that was only the first third of the story kind of thing.
Yeah, there was a lot more to the struggle behind that.
Yeah, and something else that I said when we just finished the movie, I was like, so it was a good movie, but the music kind of let it down.
Yeah, so
which is a bit gone.
Yeah, I mentioned this at the end of the movie too. I'm not a huge fan of Daft Punk. Like, they have a few songs that I absolutely love, but this was like an entire album. And if you're not a huge fan of that genre of music, there are scenes and bits that can get a bit grating. But I will say the story and animation carried it for me during those scenes.
Yeah, that's what you kind of go there for, and like the concept of a film with no words. I mean, I know it's been done before, especially with like really old movies, I think. But it's interesting, and clearly the story and animation holds its own, because if it didn't, the whole thing would just be a mess.
Yeah. And so the idea of, and this is an idea that I pretty positive has been explored in the past. The idea of setting like some sort of visual media alongside an album of a band or a group, like that, I think is something that, it's just a really cool concept to me. I said this yesterday, I can only think of one, maybe two other instances where they've done something similar to this. The band Coheed and Cambria had like a comic series that went alongside one of their albums, I believe.
Right. But yes, the like I said, there was a lot of how can I put this? Things that happened which don't really make any sense why they happened.
Yeah.
Like all of the cultists being like, last one in the lava's a stinky poop, and they all just dived off a cliff into lava. I didn't really understand that, but I understood that it was to progress the plot.
And it does have a very uplifting ending of like everyone getting along and working together and everything like that.
Didn't see the space boy dying. That was one of the twists where I was like, oh,
yeah, that's
nice that it's not going to be a sickly sweet ending, as it were.
Well, it's got a few bittersweet notes at the end there, because like what was it? Him and his dream girl, right? They finally connect just in time for him to die.
She was my least favorite character. I'm just saying. She was basically just there to look good.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought that her character conveyed a lot of. You're right. She didn't do much in the movie.
She was a damsel in distress for most of it.
Yeah, for a good chunk of the movie, she did, and one thing I noticed, and you could tell maybe it was a product of its time, and you could tell it was directed and made in Japan. But the when they're burying the one guy, Hero Man, he everyone's working to like actually shovel dirt in, except
she's
for
not.
her.
I noticed that.
she just sits there looking sad.
I literally, when we were watching that, I was like, okay, if I was in this situation, yes, I would say, I'll do the digging, it's fine. But at the same time, I'm like, well, is that kind of, in this day and age, is that toxic masculinity being like, oh, the woman doesn't have to dig? Ugh, fuck my life.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I was kind of on both sides of that. I was like, on the one hand, I was like, yeah, I would probably do the digging and not ask anyone else to, but at the same time, pick up a bloody shovel.
Well,
he just saved your ass.
So I got to be careful about how I phrase this. I obviously, that's something that, if you think about it from a storytelling perspective, let me arrange my thoughts. If you think about it from a storytelling perspective, yeah, there might be something if it was made in modern day like Western anywhere, then that could be seen as somewhat chauvinistic. But if you're looking at it from like if you were looking at the story as if you're looking at real people, there's something kind of oddly charming about the fact that that one main character, she was the main character, like I think of the movie. If I had to choose one person who was probably the main protagonist, I'd say it was her.
Yeah.
And I don't know, she's an extremely feminine character is the way I'd put it. Like,
Yeah.
and when I say feminine, I mean like the stereotypical feminine character, but she's not like a weak character. Like, because she's the one who manages.
She's strong.
Yeah, she's the one that manages to find out like where the guy is, like the guy that kidnapped them all, and get them to the place they need to be. Like, she was the only one that managed to like break through the mind control when she still had the things on her head.
Yeah, at the beginning, when the guy almost escapes, right, with his guitar, I was like, okay, he's set up to be the main protagonist. He's going to go off and save the other three.
Yeah.
Instead, they just got another person who looks just like him and just killed anything that he doesn't... Like, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, the guitarist isn't really that much of a main character in the movie. Like,
no, like the keyboard dude does quite a bit.
The keyboard dude's actually kind of a badass. He's the one that infiltrates the place. He knocks out the floor washer dude, and like... I don't know. The keyboardist is kind of a badass.
He was my favourite character, I should say. The drummer dude just also kind of didn't really do much, but you got the feeling that he was kind of just there as a joke.
Yeah, he was kind of a comic relief goofball kind of guy. Also, one of the things I really liked is that when they did it went up on the screen very quickly, but their fake identities, like when they were doing like profiles on them, when they were showing how they were getting popular on Earth, they had their fake like origin, their fake like likes and dislikes. The drummer dude, origin, Munich, favorite things, beer. Like, it just made me laugh when I saw that, and I want to go back and pause it and actually look at like the full profiles they made for all of them.
Yeah, get the full lore.
The keyboardist was supposedly from Brooklyn. The guitarist, who was the most useless, he was supposedly from London.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they listed him as on that little brief snippet there.
Huh. The attire wasn't very...
It was very like 80s rock band attire.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like synth, what is it? Like prog rock.
Yeah. I
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just should have evened out the roles a bit more.
Yeah. They could have been, but again, this is one of the reasons that I say that it tells a very simple story, because it can't get into the deep nuances you could get into when you have more time to develop and more dialogue. This one, it's an entirely visual story, and the music is there to set the mood and the theme of the scene.
It felt like corners were cut because they didn't have enough music to go with it.
Well, right, that's the thing. It has to take place entirely within the span of one album.
Yeah, and there was a lot of repeating lines of music. My gosh.
I'll repeat the joke. There's a song called Too Long, and the theme of the scene, it's too long since you've been home, right? Like, that's supposed to be kind of the feel you get out of it, but the scene goes on forever, and the song goes on forever, and so...
Just repeating the words too long.
Yeah, the joke is, this scene is too long, this song is too long, can we cut to the chase?
Yeah.
But...
Sad but true.
We could pick the movie apart, and we have spent the last...
I'm not even mentioning, like, the ghost spirit that followed them through the warp.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the fact that, like, their understanding of, like, physics, or if I wanted to be a real cynic, the fact that the whole world united together to develop like a brand new space program so they could send these weirdo aliens home instead of dissecting them. Like,
every single thing about the villain was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was, but that's the thing. He was an over the top like pantomime villain.
Yeah, with no reason for doing what he was doing. But that's why I haven't brought him up until now.
Well, I think that it was implied that doing that ritual was going to give him the power to essentially dominate the world. Like, it was a very generic supervillain motivation.
They tried to cram in some kind of, he watched his father die as a child, and then he just became an asshole.
Well, it was implied. What I got out of that scene was that like that meteor crashed and it made him immortal, right? It was that evil radiation sort of thing that made him into some kind of a weirdo immortal thing, and there was space technology in that thing, and that's where he got all of his shit from.
Yeah.
There are contrivances in the movie, but if you don't look at any piece of it too closely and you just sit back and just enjoy it, it's a very simple, straightforward, classical feeling kind of story that has a very uplifting ending. It'll give you some. If you don't dig too deep, it'll give you some good feelings by the end of the movie.
Well, I think you could kind of write a paper on it that lasts about twice the length of the actual film, with all the things that they did with it, and very clever things that they did do.
Yeah. There's they do a lot with just with facial expressions and with visual cues that would normally be handled by dialogue, and I think because you're not listening to dialogue, you're that much more
focusing that much more.
Yeah, on the visual aspects.
I thought it was quite a. Despite the silliness of it all, it did lend quite an emotional response, I think.
Yeah, and again, if you're looking for something more serious and sci-fi, this isn't for you. If you're looking for something with deep character development that subverts your expectations, this isn't what you're looking for.
Then watch Star Trek.
Yeah, right? Well, specifically, watch The Next Generation.
Okay. Anyway.
That's an excellent series. I have not talked enough about that. I was not a Star Trek fan. Really, I never watched Star Trek. But after seeing the new rebooted Star Trek movie, the first one, I was like, you know what? Maybe the original series are actually pretty good. And I went back and I watched Next Generation, which aired during my lifetime, but I was 5.
Yeah, I'm not really a Star Trek fan. I think I tried watching it once and it was just a bit too, I don't know, dated, I guess, when I was about.
Yeah, well, it depends on which, if you go back to the original one, that's what I tried to watch the original one first with Kirk and Spock and all that, and I couldn't do it. But the one with Jean-Luc Picard, the Patrick Stewart, that series was quite good.
Okay.
With a lot of good philosophy and character moments and stuff. It was just very, very well done. Final thoughts on this movie. I think I've pretty much given mine at this point.
I enjoyed it. I don't think it's not. It's artsy, right? And I appreciate the artsiness. It's not the kind of film I would repeatedly watch, but it's interesting in the way that they do things.
Yeah.
That's my final review.
I mean, yeah, and it isn't something that I go back to often. I think I've watched that movie maybe 4 times the whole way through. Once in college, once a few years after that, once a few years after that, and once yesterday. It's not a movie that I go back to often, but it's a movie that I'll watch maybe every few years.
It'd be great for a family setting.
Yes, it's a good, wholesome, feel-good kind of movie.
Yeah.
It reminds me of old school cartoons when I was younger, the cartoon, the kind of the Transformers movie, which I've talked up extensively, not on the podcast, but in just personal conversations. I loved that movie, but it has a very similar feel to that, where it's not overly complex, but it's complex enough to really appeal to the whole family, right?
Yeah, it's good. words. Yes, I can't say the words. It's good too many times in a row.
Yes, good. Big words,
It's
no.
just distinctively good.
Movie good.
Moving on.
All right, go on. You were starting to move into something else that you'd been watching this week.
Yes, well, not this week. This morning, because I was like, I feel like I need something new to binge. So I went to Netflix. That's
that
right,
hive
it's a
of
pro
scum
Netflix
and villainy.
day today. Yes, where terrible people go, which is why I love it. No, I've been watching Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah, I've heard such good things about this.
So, if anyone out there has seen Karate Kid, which anyone my age or older should have done, Alicia had not, and I was very disappointed in her.
To be fair, I didn't see that movie for most of my life, and I think I've...
Really?
I have seen it since, but it took me a long... It was a classic movie. It was one of those classic movies I never saw when I should have, and got back to it later.
Gosh, Cobra Kai is like a TV series which followed on from a film called Karate Kid. Karate Kid's a very old film where there was like this guy who got bullied, picked on, and the bullies were kind of in this rival gang, not gang, dojo. They went a karate dojo called Cobra Kai. And so the film's all about this scrawny kid with the help of Mr. Miyagi, his teacher, training him up to beat Cobra Kai in this final world championship. It's a really good film, very much, very highly rated. I think there was a second film, but I think it's one that no one really talks about because it's one of those bad sequels.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
But this TV series on Netflix, it takes the characters from the end of the first film, and it says, right, 20 years later, here's the main asshole from the first one. He's a bum. He's not doing well in life, and he sees a kid getting picked on, and it's kind of a reversal of roles, right? David San, whatever, is the protagonist from the first film, is now a big time like car dealer. He's got lots of money. He's got an amazing house, a family, all these things, and he becomes a bit of a prick, but not a massive prick. Like I still think he's a good person.
Smug, right? Like. Would that be a fair characterization? He's gotten smug because of his success.
Yeah, but it's obvious that he actually does care. Like when there's a lot about his like family. He's got a daughter and a son, and he cares a lot about his daughter. He wants them to grow up properly, not to be like on games and stuff the whole time. And yeah, so this the Cobra Kai dude, he helps this kid that's being beaten up by a bunch of other school kids, and he sets up a Cobra Kai dojo, and he, in the true Cobra Kai fashion, it's like no nonsense, right? It's that's why he's very how can I say it, of his time. His morals and ethics are that of someone who's like lived through the 80s kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where like the first time that his student is like in the dojo with him, he's like, alright, give me 30 press-ups on your knuckles, and the kid gets down and he's like, can't do one. He starts having like an asthma problem, and the sensei is like, what are you doing? And picks up his asthma inhaler, throws it against a wall, it smashes apart. And the kid's like, oh, okay, I guess that's not a thing. We can't just like, we just gotta buckle down no matter what. And don't do this in real life because that can be quite dangerous.
Well, yeah, no, you'll get sued also.
Oh yeah, the things that he at one point he ties the kid's hands up, takes him to a swimming pool in the middle of the night and pushes the kid in. He's like, use your feet, keep your head above the water, just fucking, you're a Cobra Kai, you can't die.
Just do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, this kid's gonna go fucking run to the police any second, but he doesn't for whatever reason. Anyway, several times there's things that happen, and the leader of the Cobra Kai, the sensei, is like, "What's this?" And there's going to be profuse language, forewarning. So if you're, affected by language, then
Yeah, if you have
maybe
sensitive
pause.
virgin eardrums, then close them.
He's he's like, "Stop being a pussy!" Like, people online telling you that you're a piece of shit. In my day, you went up to someone and called them a piece of shit to their face. And there's a respect to being an asshole back in my day, and it's like very.
It's rough.
He's a total dickhead, right?
Yeah, it's rough and
Absolutely.
it's callous, but
But that's kind of how you forge the best steel, is in flame.
yeah.
Yeah, like, he doesn't take shit from nobody. Yeah, and so he gets another person. Like, the first episode, pretty slow. It kind of warms you into it.
Hmm.
I can't remember if it's the second episode or third episode. Second episode, it definitely picks up and it gets a lot better. Kind of gets you pumped. Like, that's why I went out for a run before we did the podcast today, because I was like feeling pumped after a couple of episodes of this.
Mm.
And yeah, it does refer back to Karate Kid in some very funny times. Like, the classic wax on, wax off thing, right?
This is in the preview for the series, which I've watched, and I found this hilarious.
The wax. Wait, have you heard about what I'm about to say?
Yes, I have, but the audience hasn't. Go on.
Okay. So the classic thing is like when David San in the first Karate Kid is like washing a window, and they call back to it. They're like the guy's washing one of the windows in the Cobra Kai studio because it's kind of run down. He's like, "Am I doing this right, Sensei?" And the Sensei Tendra are like, "I don't give a shit. Just wash the window."
Yeah, because in the original, it was a technique to it: wax on, wax
It was
off.
training him through the
Yeah, through just like disciplined chores or something
through the
like
chores.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
This guy,
and this
he's-
one,
nah.
just I don't give
the
a
window,
shit.
just fucking clean it. Yeah. So yes, it has some really funny moments. It has some
I
uh,
going
quite intense. Go on.
going back to something that we talked about. I think it was last podcast. We kind of ventured into Easter egg territory after we talked about product placement, and I'm thinking that this is an example of how to do like reference right. Like, you're referencing the source material, you're referring back to it, but you're doing it in kind of like a logical, like it's not like, that happens and then they all turn to the camera and like, laugh, you sheep.
Yeah.
It's more like it's more subtle. Like, the audience will get it if they've seen the original, but it's not like in your face so much, and it's funny.
There are a lot of subtleties. One of probably the best subtlety I find is that clearly the show revolves around these two people, the bum and the rich guy, right?
Yeah,
Neither of them are good people. Neither of them are bad people. Like,
they're
this
very human.
This sensei's trying to train up a guy through, not the most PC means, but he's training a guy up so he doesn't get beaten up, basically.
Yeah,
But at the same time, that sensei then gets drunk one night, swaps a couple of cans of beer for a spray paint can, and draws a giant cock on the rich guy's billboard going into his mouth. So he's not good at all. He's not a good person. Some of his morals are good though, and it is very funny.
I mean,
I think I've sold Kaiser on it.
I've wanted to watch this for a while, but now hearing more details, I think I'm going to have to. It's so something I was thinking about listening to your whole description of it. Talking about how this guy has a very, very harsh philosophy to train up the kid, but the kid doesn't run and actually sticks it out and keeps going with him. This is my thinking, is that I think the movies both were products of their, like the movie and then this series, both philosophies had a point at their time. So when the original one came out, it was what, the late '80s, early '90s, right? I can't remember when it first came out, but it was a time of more like, noise and conflict and like aggression, right?
Yeah.
And so the Mr. Miyagi philosophy of just like this calm and reserved nature, the non-aggression and discipline and defense, it struck a much like a strong chord, and it was a much needed message, I think. Now
it's more like the opposite.
Exactly, we're in an opposite, where people seem to be a lot more passive, they're a lot more sensitive, they're a lot more, hurt by everything, really. It's the
and
exact opposite.
That doesn't mean people need to be aggressive.
No.
It means that people need to, when you see something going wrong in the world, you don't just sit on the sidelines and do nothing about it.
Yeah, you speak up and you say something about it. Aggression doesn't necessarily... Aggression is probably the wrong word. Maybe disagreeableness, or whatever the word is.
Cobra Kai is all about aggression.
Yes, okay. I'm talking from a philosophical standpoint.
Yes,
but my point is, I think that the whole Cobra Kai thing, the message that it's giving, like, now, like, it's almost... You're right. Everything you described is very non-PC. Probably would get him sued, if not arrested.
Oh, yeah, he would. Yeah, absolutely arrested.
But for that reason, I think that's why it's very cathartic to watch somebody, like, grow more disciplined through those harsher, like, methods. Because now everything is coated in, like, 5 layers of, like, softness. It's like...
Yeah, they really... Sorry.
No. Just, I was saying, like, in modern day, if you want to actually... I'm thinking about at work when I have to, like, tell somebody to, like, what they need to do, or if they've made a mistake on something, I have to be very careful about how I say it. I have to go through, like, 5 layers of corporate speak before I can actually get to my point.
There's a scene that I think you would fucking love, because it's just very funny.
Yeah.
And actually, I feel like I mean no offense to people when I say this. This is one of the scenes. It's set inside the school, and there's a teacher who's like, there's one of the children here who, and I won't name names, but their mother called me the other day because her son was crying because of his facial deformity was being picked on. Which, by the way, that shit does happen in school.
Well, yeah.
Where the teachers literally basically tell you without telling you.
Yeah.
And that shit is horrible.
That is. It's awful.
She goes on and she's like, alright, so, it's Halloween this week, the Halloween party. And we thought we should have a small discussion about maybe people shouldn't go for, like, the stereotypical slutty nurse costume anymore this year. I mean, it's not very nice. Maybe instead they should go as, like, a non-binary hospital worker. And I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, shit.
Like, the show was very clearly making a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's like one of these things that you just can't say these days, but Netflix can say it somehow.
Well, it's because Netflix doesn't have, like, advertisers. Like, the audience are the people paying for it. Like...
Yeah.
So, like, Netflix can get away with...
It's a shocking thing, like, that other studios wouldn't be able to get away with, but they do. And I think it's good.
But it is hilarious, though, the... Yeah, but that was kind of my point, is that it seems like this show is a very intelligent and very comedic commentary on the times, and the same was true for the original. So I think in that regard, from what you're describing to me at least, and from what I've seen on the preview of it, it seems to be a show that carries forward that same sort of... It has the same spirit of the original one. That's me talking, having not seen it. I'll try to actually watch a little bit of it this week, because I finished playing Cyberpunk. I beat it, so I've got quite a bit of time left to go around and maybe watch something else in my free time.
I mean, I started it this morning, and I'm already on, I think, episode 5 now.
Well, that really, that speaks well to a series then, if you can plow through it.
Yeah. Also, I'm a binger.
Yeah, binge watching is, I mean, I do the exact same thing when I find like what was it, the series Vikings. I watched like the first 4 seasons of that in like a few weeks, and I honestly got kind of sick, like burnt out on it, which is why I haven't talked about it recently.
For those weeks, you did talk about it every single week on the podcast.
I did. Well, now I'm back to watching it again. So, actually, hold up. There is something I wanted to talk about Vikings.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
Is it short? Because we haven't got much time.
Okay, fine. We're going to go over a little bit. But Vikings, right? So, something that I kind of got this impression, and it's almost getting worse in the later seasons. They really... I don't know why they do this, if they feel it's necessary for character development or to not piss off like people with, politically correct intentions, but all of the women come across as psychopaths. Like,
yeah, I kind of understand the reason behind that.
Like, I'm just thinking like there's these two people, like one of them is like perfectly like he pulls off some sketchy political dealings to dethrone one of the female earls, right?
Right.
And in his defense, she'd been gone for like a year, and all the people were getting restless, and he basically just took over in her absence. And they end up like kind of coming to a mutual understanding. They decide to do a cooperative rule, and she threatens him a lot at first, but that's it. And then it goes on for like an entire season with them like slowly growing closer and closer, and then they're going to get married. And then on their wedding day, like she's still acting all happy, getting in her dress and everything. And when he comes to see her just before the wedding, she stabs the shit out of him.
Jesus.
And kills him, and then takes over again. And I'm like,
okay.
I understand like the whole like they were trying to make her seem like a more shrewd political operative. But everything leading up to that point, like that's the kind of thing a sociopath would do. Like being all happy-go-lucky, showing no signs throughout that entire like season-long thing that she was in any way like harboring a motive for like vengeance. And then out of nowhere, with a smile on her face, and she's in the wedding dress and ready to go, and she shanks the fuck out of him. Like that's only the most recent example in the series, but there's quite a few that are like situations like that where I think they're trying to it seems like a lazy writer trying to make the female characters seem strong, and they
exactly. Also, when I said I can kind of understand why the women are psychopaths in it, that was not a suggestion that women are psychopaths. That was but something that's very popular in media these days is to make women more the dominant figure, show that they have bigger balls than the men quite a lot in a lot of shows and TV programs.
Yeah, this calls back to a much earlier podcast where we talked about like modern tropes and how I'm just kind of getting burnt out on them. Like if I grew up in the 80s, I probably would have gotten sick of the action hero trope, like the muscle-bound guy like mowing down legions of people. By like the 10th movie, I probably would have been burnt out on it. But now that you're right, that's the modern trope for a lot of like female action stars, is rather than giving them depth and complexity and trying to make them seem like interesting characters and strong in their own right, they basically just make them like smoke and drink and kill a bunch of people. Like it's like it's lazy writers' shorthand for this is a strong character.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, obviously one of the greatest female roles I think has been Ripley from Alien vs. Predator. Which, oh my god, you haven't seen that film, have you?
I haven't seen the film, but I do know who you're talking about, and I've seen plenty of people talking about the original movies.
Yeah, especially the first and the second one are both like must watches. Maybe that'll be one of the movie nights. But she doesn't. She's not going around with like an Arnold Schwarzenegger minigun cutting down aliens everywhere she goes. No, it's all about the survival, making the right choices, and putting up with a great deal of pain just so that herself or other people can survive.
Yeah, they make her an actual strong character rather than just making her like show off superficial strengths.
Yeah. And she has her weaknesses.
Yeah.
Some that she gets over, some that she doesn't. But yeah, she's a great role model, I think.
Yeah.
Even a fictitious one.
Yeah, so and it's just one of those things that it annoys me because so much else in the show is well written. Because there's characters that do very similar things to what she does, but the show tries to put her in a very sympathetic light and portray her as this very shrewd, intelligent political operative. Yes, I know we're going over time. That beep came through.
Sorry. I was trying to do it subtly because this is like the longest we've done.
Well, I've completely forgotten to put myself on Do Not Disturb, so the Discord beep did come through. All right, I will summarize my thoughts with this one last little point.
Okay.
So I've already described how this character acts, right? And
Yep.
the show tries to put her in a light of how she's a very intelligent, shrewd political operative, right? Mm-hmm. There's another character in the game who does almost exactly the same thing, right? And they portray him as a bumbling buffoon who is like making a hash of his political dealings, but he does exactly the same things. And then there's a third character who is, well, actually two other characters. I'll use a male and female example. One is the main guy, Ragnar Lothbrok. Like, they take the time, like, he kills people too, but they take the time to develop him as a very shrewd and, like, interesting character. There's times where he has the opportunity to slaughter his enemies, and he specifically fights not to because he's got a plan in the works. And it might not be good for the person he spared, but he's clearly, thinking several steps ahead. And you can see when he's on his way to do something as a character. The other one is a French princess who shows up, I think, in the third or fourth season. She, like, at first seems like a bit of a... Like, she's clearly the voice behind her father, the king. Like, she's the one kind of influencing him, and they do a good job of portraying her as a very shrewd political operative. She's very, like, interesting and manipulative, and she ends up getting into, like, a forced arranged marriage, and at first she's, like, throwing a tantrum, doesn't really like it, is, like, really against it, but she eventually figures out how she can use it for her own political machinations and gain power from it. So I know that the people who are writing the show can do good character development and can, like, portray people in an intelligent way, both male and female. But for whatever reason, there's, like, a handful of main, like, female protagonists in the show that they just make a ham-fisted just hash of it. All right. That's my final thoughts. I won't go any further. We are at, like, 40 minutes into the recording. So I'll end segment 2 there. Unless you have anything left to say?
Nope, nothing left to say.
Okay. This is the end of segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast. You will hear us again momentarily for segment 3, where a long-awaited promise will finally be fulfilled. Blue has read a certain dinosaur aficionado book. So, yeah, look forward to that. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 3, our wild card, which, dear God, this week is it a wild card.
I hope you're ready for story time, kids.
All right, so if I do put an explicit tag on these podcasts when I upload them, so just you've been warned. It's that dinosaur thing that we've been waiting on and promised since God knows when.
Like episode 2 or something?
Yeah, we talked about it way back then, and some of our listeners have not let us forget. So, with that being said, take it away, Blue.
Well, we committed, and, I committed.
Yeah, I thought it might be funnier and easier on my mental state if I didn't, and he just tried to describe it to me.
My Audible account is now forever cursed with a half-an-hour rendition of a tale that goes by the name of Ravaged by the Triceratops. Now, pre-podcast, we discussed and said that we think it's best if I change the wording of the story so that we don't get quite as hard hit by the demonetization. Well, not that we're being monetized anyway, but we'll try and offend the least number of people possible. So, for the sake of all those out there, we will be talking today about a story about primarily about fishing. Okay. Like I said, it's a half-hour book. I do not recommend you pick it up. But I don't know, if you're weird enough, then maybe you want to listen to it to hear the full gory details.
Yeah, if you're intrigued by this, first seek psychological help, and then...
Yep. And then still don't buy the book. I don't know. It's a weird one. So, the story begins. It's set in, I assume, some kind of Jurassic era where there's tribes of humans, and one of the rights to becoming a fully fledged grown-up woman is that they have to surpass this challenge where they, without wearing much, they have to pick a wild animal that they have to go out and kill with like just the tools of the land. They're not allowed outsider help, etc., etc.
Okay.
So there's these three women. One of them's like, I'll take on this creature. And everyone's like, another woman's like, I'll take on this creature. Ooh. And then the final woman, who is the protagonist, is like, I'm gonna take on a trihorn. Yes, they call them trihorns in the book, not triceratops, even though the book is called Ravaged by the Triceratops. Anyway, sorry, did you just choke?
Yes. I forgot what the title of the book was.
Yes. So she goes back to her hut, and she gets a visit from the chief of the tribe's son, and he's like, "Hey, check out my new fishing rod." And she's like, "Oh, that's really cool. Let me have a look at it." And she takes a very close look at his fishing rod. Then he's like, "Cool, good luck with the hunt and everything."
Wait, I'm sorry, is the fishing rod a metaphor? I'm sorry.
It's all about fishing, Kaiser. There's no metaphors here.
Oh my god.
And so she's like, "Oh, I know a great fishing hole." And so they go off and do fishing in the fishing hole.
Fishing is a very weird euphemism for this. I'm sorry.
Well, it's I didn't come up with a plan for this, guys.
I'm sorry. Maybe like I'm the kind of person who like needs to have these sorts of things put in euphemistic language, because I honestly thought you were actually talking about fishing until that moment.
We're totally talking about fishing. Anyone out there listening? Definitely fishing.
Okay, go on.
So she sets off after her fishing experience, and she comes across some footprints, and she very quickly tracks one of these trihorns, and in fact finds two of them, a small one and a big one. And at this point, maybe I'm metagaming in the world of books, but I was like, well, this is pretty fucking obvious how this is going to go down. She's like, I'm going to take on the little one. So she throws a rock at it. And oh, big surprise! The little one was a female trihorn, and the big one was the mate of that trihorn. And so the big one, suddenly happens to be a man. Who would have guessed? Starts like charging at her, and so she's like, right, fuck it, we're going to enact the plan. So she stands in front of a cliff, and she's like, come at me, you big bugger. And
God.
Then at the last second, she steps to the side, and it buries its three horns into the cliff. And her plan is then to pick up an axe, which, now I think about it, I don't know how she got hold of. Considering she was not wearing much. And she tries to cut it behind the neck, but the tri-horn breaks through the cliff, causes a small landslide, and she blacks out. Then she comes to. She's in a cave underground, and she's lying on a mossy bed with like leaves and stuff. She's like, what the fuck?
Medieval roofie? Like, is that what just happened here? What? Stone Age roofie?
No, that was all legit. That actually happened.
Okay.
I'm curious what you thought now.
Go on.
There was no actual metaphors in that last part.
Okay, that was all literal. All right, let's keep going.
And so she gets up and she's like, that's weird. Starts going towards the cave entrance. Like, oh my god, there's a tri-horn at the cave entrance, looking out, guarding something. That's weird. What could it be guarding? And it turns around and she's like, oh, it had in its eyes were full of rage and also lust. I snapped one of its horns when it charged into the cliff, and now its female friend does not want to be its friend anymore. So she starts backing up away from the thing, trips over on one of those cave rocks.
Oh no!
And falls back onto the bed of dry leaves and shit. I don't know. And yeah, it's like looking at her, full of hatred and lust, and so she decides that she needs to teach it how to fish.
And then some Barry White starts playing.
The Triceratops is like, I would love if you showed me how to assemble this fishing rod. So she assembles his fishing rod, makes a real long and sturdy one, and then they go off fishing, and he also fishes in the same fishing hole that she showed her friend back at the village.
Oh my god.
And then she is exhausted after all of that fishing, so she falls asleep on the leaves, wakes up, and the Triceratops is nowhere to be seen. So she takes the advantage and runs away from the cave. She eventually stumbles all the way home, despite not knowing quite where she was. And then just as she collapsed on the ground, the villagers find her, and they're like, "So did you kill the monster?" And she's like, "No." And they're like,
"But I slayed the beast."
But and the closing line of the book is, which I don't agree with, "But I found a way to tame them." All right. She did not tame it in any flipping way, alright?
I mean...
and it just cuts off there. And that's the story of Ravaged by the Triceratops.
Well, that really is... I mean, you know what? Credit where credit's due. That is a parable for the ages.
I mean, I listened to it just after the last podcast we did. So I'd started doing the thumbnail. It was about 2 minutes into doing the thumbnail, I was like, alright, I'm going to save, close this all down. I had to get an alcoholic drink and just fucking... Oh, God.
Oh.
So yes, now none of you have to read that book. I hope you're all satisfied out there that wanted it.
I kind of want to listen to it now.
Are you serious?
What the fuck? I have so many questions.
I mean, you're more than welcome to ask them, but I will have to respond to them in euphemism.
Alright, well, here's question number 1. How did she walk back to the village? I think she'd be, bow-legged for a week.
It was a very strenuous fishing trip, that's why she fell asleep afterwards.
Okay.
Fuck, I don't know. I guess the fishing rod that she made for him was not as... large and sturdy as one might suggest that a Triceratops' fishing rod would need to be.
Of all
Fish
the
with?
segments that we didn't have me on Facecam, why this one? Like, I should have... like, I wish you could have seen my facial expression as you were telling the story. Like, it would
If
have
I was
been...
on the fucking face cam, it's just like a fucking red traffic light the whole fucking time.
Oh my god. Wait, what?
So I'm fucking red from having to explain this shit. I think it's quite a sad story because at the end of the day, the Trihorn is left without a friend to fish with.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I mean it's kind of fucked up what the female Trihorn did too, because like what, she leaves him because he just gets like a slightly disfiguring injury. Like that's horrible. Like,
I mean, fuck, I bet she was down the fishing club with Freddy the Triceratops the next day.
Yeah.
That slut.
Freddy and his perfectly pristine 3 horns.
Yeah, he's catching all the bass. Also, yeah, there's a lot wrong with the story. For a start, where did she get the axe? Second of all,
I mean, to be fair, maybe she was keeping it somewhere.
I don't think Triceratops are that stupid that they would run into a wall.
It is
But it is a Trihorn, not a Triceratops, so maybe they have smaller brains.
Okay, so this is something that I think I can explain. I think this person watched The Land Before Time before they wrote the story.
They got them confused with bulls and bullfighting.
No, not the running the cliffs. Calling them Trihorns instead of Triceratopses. It's one of those like classic like tropes of like a primitive society or like a more simple-minded person essentially describing the thing. Like it's a way to make it sound more, because Triceratops is a very academic sounding name for the thing. But a Trihorn is what conceivably like a cave person would call them, right? Because it's like
it's the less scientific term.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I can explain, in terms of why they went in that direction.
Well, I mean, it has 4 horns, Kaiser. You forget the fishing rod.
Did this book have like a rating on Amazon? Like, how many stars did this get?
Because I can look it up quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's in my fucking library now.
Yeah. Oh my god. And it's never going away.
God. And yet, for some reason, because I got that terrible long audiobook about the person that reads people's minds, Audible is still recommending me books like Jesus and the Essences.
Oh my god. Well,
after reading that.
I mean, it's my Audible stuff is just all my recommendations are like all kinds of confused.
Yeah.
Oh, also, the podcast is available on Audible.
Oh, is it?
I thought I should mention that because nice. I did it through because I had it in Amazon. They actually it's also available on Audible. So I added it to my Audible library on my phone so I can see whenever it publishes. So,
for the sake of all the weird people out there that want to listen to this book, it's, as I said, Ravished by the Triceratops. It's under Dinosaur Erotica in Audible.
Why is that a genre?
Christy Sims and Alara Branwyn. Narrated by Buck Oh, that's another thing. But it's narrated, right? By, I'd say probably like a 70-year-old dude.
Yeah. His name is Buck Johnson.
A 70-year-old dude describing a fishing rod going into a pond. It's 33 minutes long.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say the guy's name was Buck Johnson?
Buck J. Deet.
Oh,
I don't know what the middle name is.
J. Deet.
It's got 3 ratings and it's 3.7 stars.
Oh, there you go.
Shall I read some of the?
I don't know. I think I'm more surprised that it was written by a. Well, actually, no. I'm not surprised at all. Because I'm thinking back of
read the comments that are left on the book.
Give me a second. So two things. One, I was about to say I'm surprised it was written by 2 women, and then I was like, no, I'm not surprised. Because I have actually read erotic novels before, and I've found that a lot of them are written by women. Two, speaking of it like a 70-year-old man describing these sorts of things, if people haven't seen it, look up 50 Shades of Grey, narrated by Gilbert Gottfried. For reference, he's the guy who voiced Iago in the Aladdin movies. The "Oh my God" kind of voice.
Yeah, the parrot.
Yeah. So imagine him narrating an erotic novel like 50 Shades of Grey. Okay, go ahead, read the comments. Let's hear it.
Okay, so there's... I'll start with the 5-star ones, of course.
Yeah.
There's 2 5-stars and 1 3-star. So one person said, loved it. Great book. Kept my attention all the way to the end. Amazing audio delivery. Loved it. That person needs help. Next. Well, this was different. A lot tamer than you would think. But how do you cram an erotic story in a tiny book? Very carefully, I would imagine. That's all there's is what they said. I'm sorry.
Even the reviews are euphemisms.
And the last one is quite a longer comment. Valeria and the Trihorn. So I think the main character is called Valeria.
Okay.
This was an interesting story where Valeria had to kill a Trihorn for her tribe, which is almost impossible. She ends up with the Trihorn taking the place of her fishing mate. Interesting. Buck Deet did a great job with the narration. I received this free copy audiobook at my request and have voluntarily left this review. Maybe we should leave a review.
Honestly, yeah. Why we probably should.
But do I want my Audible account being any more cursed than it already is?
Well, let's see. Yeah. Ooh. If only we could leave a review from the podcast, just like, hey, we read this on our podcast, or not
Maybe
read it, but we talked about it on our podcast.
I know we've talked about making an Audible account for the podcast specifically. Maybe that's...
Yeah, it might be something we decide to do if we do more of these book review segments.
Yeah, maybe we should do a story time segment every month or so. Story
time, or or even just a book review portion, where one of us has read something and we talk about it. But not to get too far into just talking about how we're managing and working on the podcast. I just...
Sorry, go on.
I don't know, What? There are fetishes out there that I don't understand.
It's... Go on.
I consider myself well-traveled in the areas of looking at that sort of thing, just mainly out of curiosity, looking at the different sort of reading erotic manga mostly, and just looking at the different sorts of scenarios, fetishes, and things that people put into those. This is one that I never thought would actually have it has its own category on Amazon. What?
Yep.
It's something I never thought would be big enough to have its own category. I said it as a joke, umpteen podcast back, and...
But hey, if it gets people to read it, then...
But, I guess it's out. I mean, you read it.
I think if this gets back by popular demand, I've definitely found the next one that needs to be read, and I think you need to read the next one if we do.
Okay. If we do another one of these, I will be the one that does it.
I think I found an excellent follow-up, alright?
Okay.
Just to give you the title and the subtitle, it's called Pimp Dino. And then the the subtitle, 50 Scales of Grey, Book 2.
I have the biggest smile on my face right now.
That's the picture for the book, right? I just sent you.
Oh my god.
For everyone else
that looks
who can't see...
That's the shittiest Photoshop I've ever seen in my life.
It's like a dinosaur with a purple, zebra stripe hat and a pimp cane.
And a blonde girl dressed like Tinkerbell, laying on a rock.
Laying on a rock with an exploding volcano in the background. If you are interested, that is twice the length of the book that we just read. It's narrated by the same guy. Different producer though. So if you do want more of this, that's absolutely where we're going next.
All right, yeah, okay. And if we do another one of these, then but yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, comment. If not, respond to us on Twitter. tell us to do more of these. But if you know us personally, just message us. But the next one of these, I will bite the bullet, and I will be the person who listens to it.
And hopefully we'll have an account set up for TMCJ podcast on Audible, so we can leave a comment.
I didn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you got it. I finished.
Going back to finish my thought from earlier, just about these like kind of weird niche fetishes. I don't have a problem with them existing. Like, I think it's like, okay, you do you. If it's for you, then it's for you.
We aren't kink shaming. We're just
fascinated by it.
Yeah, mildly bemused, to say the least.
Yeah,
or the morbid curiosity.
We're like anthropologists going into a realm or tribe that we neither knew about nor understood.
Don't bring up tribes, Kaiser. I'm getting flashbacks. So much fishing, so much rod.
I took a sip of tea right as you said that.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
But yes, Pimp My Dino. Holy shit! It's not Pimp My Dino. It's Pimp Dino.
Pimp Dino.
Can't wait for
and
that.
By the way, the eyes in Pimp and Dino have diamonds above them instead of dots.
Yeah, he's a classy dino pimp.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Can't wait for the reactions from this video, that's for sure.
Jesus. I mean, we gave people a warning at the beginning, so...
We did. We still got 7 minutes left. We need more content.
Oh, we could talk about anything.
We could.
Oh, actually, you know what? I know exactly what I want to talk about, because I'm finally going to be able to... So do you remember, like, a few something a little bit more tame, on the subject of books still and talking about them?
Yeah.
So a few weeks back, I mentioned that a friend of mine, a few friends of mine have been doing, like, a book...
Oh, yeah, that was that book you were going to finish. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Yep. And so I've finished it, and I finished it 2 weeks ago, actually. But I didn't want to talk about it on the podcast because I know one of the people in that book club listens to this. At least one of them. I think two of them actually do. And so I didn't want to give my thoughts away because they did invite me in as like kind of just a guest to chat about it since I read the book as well.
Okay. Do you think we're going to start introducing Dino Orgy books into their book club?
Oh my god, I really want to.
Sorry.
But no, the actual book club to talk about it is tonight. And that's why now I can talk about it because this podcast goes up next week.
Yeah.
They'll hear about it after they've already heard about it.
Gotcha.
So the book is called Atonement. And it's set in like 1920s, 1930s UK.
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent in France after World War II breaks out.
Okay, yeah.
The first part of the book is like kind of a well-off family living out in the countryside in England. And through a contrived series... It's mostly just like... The first part is heavily character development driven. And it honestly... So I've read The Diary of Anne Frank. We have to read it in school, and I read the unabridged version later in life, just because I'm always fascinated about reading like first-person accounts of what like life was like in another era, and that's what that book really boils down to. It's a diary, but you know what I mean. But this book does something similar, where it's almost like a first-person account of life at the time. And it goes through a lot of
economic worries and
It's more focused on the people, like the individuals who are like living through this era.
The peasants.
These weren't peasants actually. They were a very well off family.
Oh, okay.
But not
the middle class or upper class.
Upper class. So like where they had their own estate and a pool, which was I assume rare at the time. They had their own groundskeeper and live-in help. There were also some like lower class people there who were friends with them from the local town or village.
Okay, so they weren't the stereotypical assholes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the mother was a bit of a bitch, but so basically what happens is through a contrived series of events, like their groundskeeper, her son, who's always been very good friends with the children of the family that live on this estate, he kind of hits it off with one of the eldest daughter of the upper class family, and the two of them have been friends their whole lives. They went to college together. In fact, her father financed him going to college. He ended up being very intelligent and graduating like at the top of his class or something like that. And now he wants to go off to medical school, and great ambitions. But there's kind of become like an awkwardness that's grown between the two of these two. They're both in like their early 20s, and essentially they're both slowly coming to the realization that they actually have feelings for each other. It's a cute little romance, but the thing is, they also have a younger sister who is probably the worst human being in existence. She is like very introverted, but is obsessed with writing these fanciful stories, and she tries her hand at making a play, but she's very pretentious. She wants everything to be just so, right? And she sees the interaction between like her sister and this older boy, and she like in her mind is thinking of all these fanciful stories of like, you know, evil people stealing women off and things like that. And he finally comes to like the realization before like a dinner party that he is in love with this older, well, not older, but the older sister. She's younger than him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
And so he writes a letter to her to apologize and also to kind of softly confess his feelings. But to kind of just get out his frustration, he also writes a more vulgar letter. Now,
and he doesn't show that.
Unfortunately, he mixes the two of them up.
Oh, of course you fucked that. That annoys me.
But
because you wouldn't fuck that up.
Yeah, you wouldn't, in theory. Like maybe if you're like a angsty teenager, you might fuck it up. But he was like 24, I think. I'm like, come on, guy. Anyway, so he thinks that, oh, maybe it's better if she sees the letter, because he still thinks he has the right letter. Maybe it's better if she sees the letter and his apology before he gets there. And so he gives it to the younger sister who he meets on the road, and she runs off, and of course, being the curious little prick that she is, opens it and reads it, and reads the vulgar letter, and suddenly thinks that this guy is a horrible person and everything like that. And they have like a younger, like another cousin who's like 16 living with them, the younger sister being like 13. And the 16-year-old cousin like convinces her that he's a psychopath, like he's a maniac. But the older sister, the one that's, you know, has feelings for this guy, she also sees the letter, and it's vulgar, but it kind of like snaps something in her head where she suddenly realizes like it's vulgar and it's horrible, but I have these same feelings for him too. Like
it's a smutty thing, not a disgusting.
Yeah, it's not like a horrible, like, oh fuck you, you're horrible. It was more of a just like, you know, I want to go fishing
intense
with you.
Feelings, yeah, thank you.
To use your metaphor from earlier.
Yes, I would like to catch cod together.
And so they meet in the front entryway, and the two of them, like, there's not really much words exchanged between them, but they kind of go off to a quiet place in the house, and they go fishing.
Fish, yeah.
Yeah. And this metaphor is never going away. I'm feeling it right now. And that happens, but the younger sister walks in on them at the end of the event.
Oh dear.
And so now her fears are confirmed.
She doesn't see his mackerel, does she?
No. But she sees in the darkness them kind of pushed up in a corner, and in her mind, he's assaulting her, right?
Right, okay, yeah.
She doesn't have the full like idea of what this interaction is, but she thinks of it like it's clearly a violent act, right? In her mind.
Yeah.
And so later in the night, the cousin, the 16-year-old cousin, actually does get assaulted by another person in the dark, and the younger sister comes on her just as that event is ending, and she makes the...
Does what on her? Comes upon her, did you say?
Yeah, comes upon her.
Okay.
Like right as the event is ending, and then sees kind of a large male figure leaving, and she jumps to the conclusion that it's this
So it's
guy,
the same guy.
and
Yeah,
then
okay.
swears to it. In her mind, she knows it's him. She didn't see his face. She didn't see anything that would distinguish just a male figure leaving. And
Okay.
she basically levels a false accusation against this guy and is so adamant that this is what happened, he ends up going to prison.
Right, okay.
And then in the second half of the book, he's over in France fighting in World War II, having negotiated early release because to join the infantry. And
Yeah.
it's revealed.
And that still happens these days.
Yeah. And it's revealed in these chapters that he's kept in connection with the girl that he had feelings for, and she never believed any of it. She thinks her sister was just being silly, which she was. So being so silly that it ruined her friend's life.
Yeah.
And so she's kept in correspondence with him. When he gets out for the infantry, they finally see each other again, and they embrace and kiss, and it's a very sweet scene. But then soon enough, he's sent off to war. And the war happens. I won't
Is
go
this
into
World War II or
to World War II, so we're talking 1930s. And I won't go into too great a detail about what exactly happens, but essentially, the younger girl, when she grows up, finally realizes her mistake and what she did wrong, and is trying to find redemption for it. Tragically, that never happens. The guy dies of a infection from a shrapnel wound over in France, and her sister dies in bombing in London.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say from a fish.
No. Shrapnel.
All those fish infections.
Shrapnel wound. And her sister gets bombed to death, and the younger
Jesus.
sister never finds redemption. What's
It's kind of a
annoying
Romeo
about
and
the
Juliet
book...
ending, then.
No, yeah, they never get that far. But they tease you with it. They make it seem like he made it home, and that he and the girl finally reunite, and that the younger sister finally meets up with them and finds her path to redemption by telling everyone what actually happened and everything, and revealing the true assailant. To use
Does the younger sister... Sorry, go on.
Is the younger sister what?
I was going to say, does the younger sister go out and do anything with her life after the fact?
She becomes a novelist.
Okay.
And she writes a quote-unquote fictional account of everything that happened, changing just enough details and names to not be liable, because it turns out that the guy who actually performed the assault went on to become a lord. And so the legal mechanism behind him would not allow her to actually say what happened, because, would have been slander.
Basically, she just ended up profiteering from her sister and...
Yes. She is a shitty person in the beginning of the book, realizes she's a shitty person in the middle of the book, then
does
because she's a
it.
coward, she does nothing about it and profiteers off the misery of her dead sibling and her boyfriend, which she sent away for a crime he didn't commit.
Because there was two ways I thought that could have ended, which would have been better, which were both extremes, which are A, she either goes out and does something right and decides to help people in similar circumstances or help in the war effort or something, which he kind of stood for. Or alternatively, she goes super angry and starts trying to tear down everything that he was a part of. And I think both of them would have been better endings from the sound of it.
No, she ends up being just a milquetoast coward who writes books about what quote-unquote happened. And in the books, she's a little bit more of a hero.
Oh,
so
really?
she finds redemption by writing fan fiction about a time where she found redemption.
She alters history, yeah.
It is honestly... So I like the story, but I also like very depressing stories. I'm a fan of kind of the darker, more depressing kind of narratives. They cheer me up.
Yeah. The story up to that point sounded pretty good.
It was part one of the book was very interesting. I loved the period descriptions and the way they described the characters and the environment and the social structures and everything. I thought that was all very well done, and they switched perspectives very well. Even the second part was pretty good, but it was in the end where they finally revealed that he didn't make it home, her sister died, and the younger one never found redemption and ended up just profiting off the misery of the other two.
Yeah. Based on your... Sorry, I thought you finished.
No. But the final thoughts on that, it's just... It is a very bittersweet and tragic ending, but the character who, quote-unquote, found Atonement, the title of the book, never does. She's just a shithead from beginning to end.
Based on your pretty strong knowledge of the period, would you say it was, like, historically accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
They actually put a large emphasis on historical... Like, the third part of the book takes place in a London hospital that's getting ready to receive war casualties, and they go into great detail about the training the nursing staff had to get through, and how medical procedures were. In the beginning of the book, they actually do a very good job describing and replicating what the social structure was like, how people would have talked and interacted. I found it to be very... And even the war bits in France, talking about the supply chains and the chain of command, how soldiers interacted and dealt with each other. It was all very... I found it... I found it all to be very historically accurate.
Did it talk about, the Wall Street crash and stuff?
No, it really focused more on the people.
Okay. I mean, because that would, massively affect the economy, and so a lot of the people, so I wondered if that had a influence over their decisions.
It would, but it mostly focused on, so this was after the Wall Street crash happened. So the book starts and opens in the mid-1930s, in the lead up to war.
I think you said it went from 20 to 30s.
I thought 20s at first, and then I was going back in my head, I'm like, no, it actually didn't. So it started in the early to mid 30s, and then concluded in the middle of World War II, and then
in the middle of World War II.
So the
so it wasn't very big time period then.
No. The whole book takes place within the span of maybe 5 to 8 years.
Gotcha.
And it skips several years right in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it skips...
Oh, yeah, I suppose when they all go separate ways and do things, yeah.
Yeah, it skips that whole time period from when he gets arrested all the way until the war starts. And his interaction in the war, he was part of the first expeditionary force into France, and most of his chapter is him and his troop making their way back to Dunkirk.
Oh, okay. So it talks about his life in, does he send letters home, or does
yes,
he talk about
does.
his actual...
It does talk about the letters back and forth,
that's cool.
And the breakdown of the supply chain and the mail to get the letters back and forth.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Honestly, the book was quite good. It was surprisingly good. But the ending... So my friend that told me to read this book absolutely hated and despised the ending.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad we're on the same page.
I didn't despise the ending, but I think it reinforced my opinion that the younger sister was a horrible person.
Yeah.
I think just she was, from start to finish, a terrible person. And I think she was a terrible person not out of malice, but out of ignorance and cowardice.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I assume the book doesn't try and paint her in a good light.
It honestly does a very good job painting everyone in a neutral light.
Okay, that's good.
That was... Kudos to the writer. This person was able to... you never had a strong feeling that anyone was trying to be shown as good or evil. They all came across very neutral. And it was up to you as the reader to go, all right, this person's a bad person or this person's a good person, and make your own conclusions as to why.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Got any final thoughts on
it? Well written, bittersweet ending, compelling characters, and a shithead narrator. In the form of that one kid. Yeah, that's it. It's worth a read if that sounds like your cup of tea. It's definitely more focused on character and story than it is on the wider world. It's definitely like a zoomed in focus on people rather than like a more macro focus. So not my normal type of book, but I enjoyed it. I think we've already got your final thoughts on the book you read, so...
Well, yeah, we don't need to get back into that. I feel like it's been a nice calm down after that.
Yeah. All right, let's end it there then.
Yep.
All right, this is going to be the end of episode 24 of the TMCJ podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and let us know if you want us to do more of these book discussions. But until then, thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week.
Have an awesome week.